Hey guys, Andy Wood here, Executive Leadership Coach and Certified Health Coach, bringing you lesson number 3 in Lessons from the Fence Line. I'm standing here in the north pasture, just north of our house, and as you can see, I'm still surrounded by, well, a whole bunch of yuck, a whole bunch of tree limbs and vines and things like that had grown up for several years over our fence line that keeps the cows in, keeps some of the bigger critters out. And so we've talked about a couple of lessons that I've learned along the way. For example, we talked about the fact that the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to get done what you want to get done, and that having the right tools makes the job a whole lot easier. Now, just as a way of reminder, the fence line can be a metaphor for anything in your life that has purpose or that has a mission or has value to it, whether it's your health, your relationships, your spiritual life, anything to do with that, any area of change you want to produce in your life. And that actually brings up the third of these lessons that I've been learning, well, the hard way. And that is, lesson number 3 is, nothing is as simple as it looks. You know, when I would sit and watch out the dining room window and just watch down the tree line, and I would imagine how beautiful it would be if all the clutter and all the things that had grown up like brambles or along the fence line would be gone. And I was thinking, man, that's going to look awesome, and it's going to feel great when it's done. And I imagine myself out here like Marcel Ledbetter with his chainsaw, man. And if you don't know who Marcel Ledbetter is, well, that's another story. Anyway, taking the chainsaw and taking the weed eater with the brush blade and getting after it. And I just pictured all those trees and limbs begging for mercy and falling by the wayside. Yeah, didn't happen quite that simply. You know, these chainsaws, they have motors in them, and those weed eaters, well, stuff happens. And those blackberry vines, by the way, had lots of briars in them, and I got the cuts to show for that. The point being, there was plenty of frustrations and complications along the way. Sometimes the chain would sling off the chainsaw. Sometimes the engines didn't want to cooperate. Sometimes I needed one tool and it was somewhere else, and it was just frustrating to have to walk back and forth. I'm not exactly right next to the house, and so sometimes it was just a lack of planning, and sometimes the complications were, well, difficulties of my own making. But the point is that anything worthwhile, any progress you want to make, any growth that you want to see in your life, any changes you want to have, somewhere along the way, if it was easy, anybody could do it. If it was complication-free, then you probably didn't need the change to start with. You can just bank on the fact that you're going to run into challenges. You're going to run into situations that make what looks like an easy job harder. I've lost count of the number of times I've wondered, why does it take 3 times for me to do something that I should be able to do once? Well, I don't know, but it is what it is. And guess what? Anything worthwhile is worth pressing through the complications. And so don't start looking at frustrations and resistance and difficulties to change. Don't start looking at all that as something that's fatal. Accept that as part of normal. Life pushes back. The world pushes back. Being overweight pushes back. Difficult relationships push back. Anything that's worth pursuing as something good, you're going to encounter resistance in the process. Don't be discouraged by that. Accept that as normal. That's part of growing up. That's part of maturity, is learning to recognize difficulties as a normal part of growth. And in the process, when you encounter your difficulties, when you encounter your setbacks, come up for air a little bit. Get some help. Reallocate some of your resources. Think through some other ways to attack the problem. There's more than one way to do this. But your resistance isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's probably a sign you're doing something right. So take that principle, lean in, and go out and make a difference in your world.